Hi everybody, it's Bob Icino from the Pure Exposure Growth Series and Path Trading Partners. Somebody hit me up on Twitter and said they were watching some of my market update videos that we've been putting out for Pure Exposure, and they wanted to know what was behind me on the wall in my home office, because I usually do these from a different angle and you can only see kind of sections of the paintings and the pictures that are on my wall here in my office. So I thought I'd do this real quick before I talk about the markets. I definitely do want to talk about the markets, and we're going to go into that as well. But first, the first thing that stands out here is obviously this painting, and that is a painting of a zombie version of Mayor Richard J. Daley, who was the original mayor of Chicago, named Daley. He was elected in 1955, and then he remained mayor until he died in office in 1975. I think it was 1975. Might have been 72. Anyway, it was an awful long time. And he died while still in office. And you can see that it's a zombie version of him. And here, I don't know if you can see this, that little button says boss on it, which is what his nickname has become since he passed away. During the time he was in office, they used to call him His Honor, like with Z's. So His Honor was kind of his name. But he was a pretty powerful guy here in Chicago. He was the one who ordered the police, gave them permission to shoot to kill during the 1968 riots here in Chicago that were sparked after the assassination of Martin Luther King. It's one of the things he's famous for, along with a lot of other things. But if you want to read about him, there's actually a book called Boss, which is about him. So anyway, that's a zombie version of him. You can't really see these two things very well over here, but the top one there is actually some celluloid clips from the movie The Godfather, with a picture in the center of Marlon Brando, who obviously played Don Corleone in that movie. And then down here is a picture of female hands with painted nails and a ring reading the book, The Godfather. So they kind of went together, and I really like the way they looked. Down here, you've got a picture from the 20s of the Chicago Board of Trade. So it's a very original shot looking south on LaSalle Street in Chicago toward the original Chicago Board of Trade building. And then up here is August of 1945. It's a VJ Day picture of the Chicago Board of Trade. So there's a celebration representing the surrender of the Japanese in World War II, so the essential end of World War II. So that's what's up on my wall: market stuff, Italian stuff, Godfather stuff, and then very specific Chicago painting of a zombied Mayor Richard J. Daley, the boss. So now that you've seen what's behind me, there should never be any confusion as to what that boss is. It's not a picture of me or what this picture behind me is, or you can't really see the other stuff, but you got to see all of it. Anyway, back to the markets. So obviously the coronavirus cases are expanding at a worrisome rate. Honestly, the numbers are growing, and I'm not going to go over the numbers. You can just look them up. They'll probably change by the time I talk to you guys, but we do have Italy under complete quarantine, at least the northern end of Italy, and I've still got family there. So far down in the south, where my family is, they're still able to move around. So I want to focus on two specific things. Number one, I'm going to play a little clip for you, like I did last time, of some work that I did for Bloomberg Television, which is going to help me explain why price action matters so much. Not when guys on TV go, yeah, we don't know why this is happening, so it's technical. I talked about that last time. They don't know what the hell technical is. Okay, they have no clue. So this should explain a little bit of what price action does for you as an investor, as an active investor, and as a trader.
It's been a terrible 2 weeks for the price of WTI crude oil, falling over 33% from high to low. Many people might think this forces OPEC to announce an even larger production cut than the market has been discussing, but the Saudi oil minister has actually taken the other side of that, saying that they have not decided on additional production cuts at this point. Looking back to what the Bank of Japan tried to do in the late 90s, where they would intervene in the yen when market forces were pushing the yen in the opposite direction that the Bank of Japan wanted it to go, they just ended up wasting money, as the market was bigger than the actual intervention. OPEC might be thinking along these lines. They may be thinking that they should wait until the bearish sentiment dies down before they cut production, so they can actually get an effect rather than just selling less crude oil at lower prices.
So I do those things for Bloomberg every week. They're called Quick Takes. You should follow Quick Take on Twitter if you don't. You can also follow me on Twitter, which is Bob_Iacino. They present something to me, and then I talk about it. And they presented to me about OPEC's production cut and what would that matter in terms of the data that was coming out. And they asked me to speak on that prior to the coronavirus going as crazy as it did. So I talked about OPEC potentially not cutting production for a different reason than they actually didn't cut production for. Okay. So was I right or was I wrong? Well, I was kind of right and I was kind of wrong. And what I mean by that is this. It doesn't really matter why something happens. I've talked about this before, where why is the least empowering thing for an active investor or a trader to think about. Who cares why? We know something's going to move. But price action was telling me that there probably was not going to be a production cut, or even if there was, it wouldn't be effective. So when I go on TV, I get my opinion from what price action is telling me. In other words, if price action is pointing me in a direction, I look for a fundamental reason why that direction would actually happen. I've said this before, price action is the steering wheel and news is the gas, right? So what price action does is hopefully gets you pointed in the right direction for when that news hits the gas. If you've been watching my TV appearances for a while, it's been since October that I've talked about being hedged in the equity markets. Now, I'm not the only one. Okay, this is not some sort of magic trick that we do. But the reason we were talking about that kind of stuff, Mike and I at Path Trading Partners, is because we were hedged in everything because we didn't think the rally could continue. Did we expect coronavirus? Of course not. That would be a ridiculous thing for us to say. Now, I theoretically predicted that OPEC wouldn't cut production, and they didn't. But I didn't get the reason why right. But so what? If price action had a short crude oil, right, which we were looking at being short crude oil, then all I had to do was formulate a reason as to why crude oil might continue to decline. And so now you've got Saudi Arabia cutting prices to Asian nations, countries in the Pacific Rim, in order to try and secure market share and take it away from Russia, who did not agree to do the production cut. So in that Bloomberg clip, I said no production cut, and no production cut happened. And the reason is because price action was pointing lower. So I needed to find a way that would work in order to satisfy the news agencies who always are looking for why, when you as active investors and traders should not be concerned with why. Really, it should be the last thing. If you want to make why a hobby like I do, that's fine. But when you're trading, price action is the thing. And that's what we're going to continue to look at throughout this coronavirus move and throughout this OPEC no production cut move and everything else that we look at, gold's flight to safety, even cryptocurrencies, everything. So just a little quick tip I wanted to give you guys on the weekend. We'll see what happens to the markets at the beginning of the week, and I'll come back and talk to you about them. It's Bob Iacchino, and don't forget to sign up for the next Pure Exposure Growth Series, which is on March, when is it? It is March 18th? Is that right? 16th. March 16th. Whatever it says down below, sign up for that one, and I'll see you guys then.